Welcome to Exploitation Reviews. A few people have asked me for some details on how I film and record and make my videos, so this will be how I do that. Everything from beginning to end. I'll put timestamps down in the description for different parts that you might be interested in, and maybe it's interesting. And feel free to steal any of my techniques. I don't care. I would be happy if there was more cool stuff out there, so if you think it's cool, take it. Okay, first step, writing. Every review I do starts the same way. I open up the movie and watch it in VLC Media Player, and over on the right, I will have a text file, and the first thing I do is the synopsis part of the structure. So I play the movie, and I write down what happens. At this point in the writing process, I don't generally write jokes or be too worried about how things are going. Every movie is something that I've seen before, so I even, will fast forward through bits I already know. And what I will do sometimes is, like you can see here on the right, is I will put down a little time code to remind me that's a point where I need to grab a clip from the movie. And in VLC, grabbing clips from the movie is pretty easy. You just hit Control R and it starts recording, and you get to where you want it to stop recording, and you hit Control R again, and it recording is done. And then over in my video folder, I'll have these little clips from the movie that I will work with later. So after the synopsis part is written, that's normally it for me for the day on that, and I'll come back to it later, normally the next morning or something, and then I will write the highlights and the shortcomings part. So I take normally 3 passes. First, just to get the synopsis down. Second, to get the actual review part, the highlights and the shortcomings. And then the third is where you tighten it up a little bit and add jokes. And that's it for the writing. Okay, now that the writing is done, it's time to record the video. And any videographer will tell you the most important part about video is audio. For audio, my main mic is this little guy here. This is the Zoom H2. This is an audio recorder, and it works pretty well. One reason I go for a mic like this, other than a lavalier mic that would attach to my lapel, or a shotgun mic that might sit on top of my camera like you see lots of YouTubers use, is lavalier mics are great, but sometimes I touch myself and then you get the kind of sounds, and I don't really like that, so I don't use one of those. And the reason I don't use a shotgun mic is they're not really for use inside, not unless you have a treated environment. My environment is not treated at all. Over here, I have bookshelves, which are quite reflective and bounce sounds around. And over here, I have DVD shelves and a big TV, which bounce sounds all around. And that's not what shotgun mics are good at. They're not to be used inside reflective environments like this. So don't use them. Don't buy the YouTube hype. Shotgun mics, if you're inside, in a living room, in an apartment, in a kitchen, don't use them. That's not what they're for. And I also have on my camera here a second microphone. This is just for backup. Sometimes, you get a little interference, or, the SD card might fail, which has happened to me once. So it's nice to have a little backup. And the little backup I use is another audio recorder from Zoom. This is the Zoom H1N. Actually, this was my main mic for a really long time, and I switched to the H2 because the H2 is front-facing, so I can see the little red light that tells me that it's still recording and everything is working well, which I like. I like that. It just made it a little bit easier to set up when I could see everything in front of me. But the Zoom H1N is fantastic. Like I said, I use it a lot. It's great. I used to mount it on a boom pole and have it just out of frame. And yeah, lots of my older videos, that was the mic I used. So both of these microphones record great audio right in the device, but I also do a little bit of post-processing that I'll talk about right now. Okay, after the recording is done, I throw the files on my computer, and for the audio files, I open them in a program called Audacity, just to do a little post-processing. So the first thing I do is I want to turn it up a little bit. So I kind of normalize the loudness of the file, and then the next thing to do is to do a compressor. So the compressor helps it sound more like that radio voiceover style. The important thing on the compressor for voiceover is this here, the ratio of 4:1. That's pretty standard for voiceover. And another thing to do, if you haven't done it already with your recorder, is to make it a mono recording. So, mono is sort of the standard for voiceover work, so you should definitely do that. And then it's just a matter of exporting the audio. Okay, so we've got pretty good audio now, and the second most important thing that you need for a good video is good lighting. So let's talk about how I do that. As far as lighting goes, I like to start with a blank canvas, which is darkness. So here we are in the dark, and since my audio is okay, it's still watchable. Anyone will watch terrible video with good audio. Nobody will watch any video with bad audio. So first thing to do is take care of me. Well, here I am. The way I have achieved this is with a key light, which is right up here. This is a pretty cheap, photographer's studio light, not very powerful. I think it's 135 watts. And I've got a white umbrella in front of it. So why a white umbrella? Well, not to get overly complicated, but in general, there's two kinds of light. There's hard light and there's soft light. And hard light is when you have a small light source in relation to the subject, and this creates some pretty unflattering shadows. I can show you. So this is the light without the umbrella. You could probably tell it doesn't look as good. The shadow's pretty unflattering, and I'm a big ugly guy, so I need all the help I can get, which is why I use the umbrella. I don't have the advantage of being one of these YouTubers that can do reviews with my cleavage hanging out.
You're not a pretty girl.
So I need a little bit of help in the beauty department, and that comes in the form of an umbrella. Okay, the next light I use is this little thing here. This is just a little tiny RGB light. The curtains behind me are a little far away, and they're pretty dark. You can't really tell what's going on back there. Like I said, the key light I use for me is not very bright, and the background is still pretty dark. So I turn this on, and I clamp it with this little clamp here to my DVD case. So let's do that. Okay, well, now you can see the background a little bit. There are curtains behind me. And the other thing is I have one of these. This is just a very cheap sunset lamp that makes a little spotlight. And I put it on an old cheap tripod that I had, and that looks like this. So that's what that looks like. You've seen it before in lots of videos, I'm sure. And the reason I wanted that is I wanted something a little bit more interesting back there. And the general idea for the show was, since I do tell jokes occasionally, I thought I would make it look a little bit like a comedy club. So curtains, spotlight, looks a little bit like a comedy club. That was what I was going for. That was the idea. More recently, I've picked up one of these. This is a Smallrig little flashlight, and it's just a 10-watt light. And this black part came out relatively recently that makes it a little bit brighter than what it was before. And this gives me a little more choice with kind of things I can throw up on the background. So that one looks like this. Yeah, you've seen these kinds of shapes before. It can change colors too. It comes with a few little gobos you can put in there, and I even made some of my own. I just printed out some little shapes, and this one, for example, I used recently on the nunsploitation film by Jess Franco, a little cross that I projected behind me. That's how I did that. Okay, now we've got the audio, we've got the video, now we need something to say, and what I do is I read my script on my phone, and I've got a little teleprompter app that runs on my phone, and I read it. Well, I perform it. It's not exactly reading, that would be boring. It's more like acting. And a little tip here, notice I've got the phone to the right of the lens, and what I do is I position the camera a little bit to the right of me, so when I look to the script, I'm looking across the lens, which creates the illusion that I'm looking at the lens, which I'm not. The glasses help sell this illusion a little bit too. Okay, we've got the audio, we've got the lights, we've got the script that we're reading. The only other thing you need is a camera, and this is the least important part of everything so far. Any camera can do this, and it will look just as good as long as you've got some interesting lighting and as long as you sound okay. The particular camera I use is the Lumix G7, but it doesn't matter. Okay, you've got your lights and your camera and your audio and your action, and you record all that stuff. Now it's time to edit it all together. Okay, now that the audio has been processed, I dropped my video file and 2 audio files, the main and the backup, into my video editor. And what we need to do here is add an audio track, and then the H2, that's my main one, and I put that down there. And then you have to line them up, which some editing software will do this for you. If not, you can do it yourself. It's not very hard. You can see the waveforms from the audio produced by my camera and just kind of zoom in. Get it so the top waveform matches the bottom waveform, and sometimes I'll do a little clap at the beginning, like right there, and that helps too. So with that clap, just get that to line up, and then that's good for that. Then I'll add the backup track, and same thing, have to get it to line up, which would be about there, and then that's it. So I'll check it and make sure, but mute that as well, and then time to edit it. So on this program, Shotcut, this little star thing keeps these tracks the same. So if I start cutting stuff here and here, it keeps everything still lined up, which is what you want. So at this point, I go through, and you can see these little dead spaces here. Those are things that have to go. Obviously, when I'm doing this for real, I will listen to it, and and then you cut all of these dead spaces out, or if I flubbed a line, or I coughed, or any of that kind of stuff, cut all of that out, and that's the first round of editing. For the second round of editing, I have to pull in all those clips I got from the movie, and they populate into the project there, and I create another video track, and then it's just a matter of dragging them on top where they need to be. Easy peasy. With this movie, the aspect ratio is the same as my talking head portion, so you can't see the talking head portion underneath, which is good. Other videos, that's not the case, but it's pretty easy fix. You can just delete the video of the talking head portion. The audio is still there, so everything works out just fine. After that, I import all of the channel assets, all of the graphics that I use, and the overlays, and the title cards, and the Patreon plug, and all the rest, and then I throw that into the mix. I also have a folder of all those insert clips that I use, and another folder full of the if, fans, and buts, so I'll pull those in as well, and throw all that together, and the video is done. Okay, now you've got everything put together. It's time to upload the video to YouTube and then wait for them to tell you that you need to re-edit it because your jokes were a little bit too adult for this platform.
It is a silly place.
Okay, I hope that was helpful. If there's anything more you'd like to know, feel free to drop me a question in the comments.